Debra Morrison, a 42-year financial expert. Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 50 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert who's championed financial empowerment for extraordinary women just like you. Yep, for over 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution, showing the world that at 50, 60, 70, and beyond, some of us might be a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And our esteemed guest today comes to us from Adelaide, South Australia, Cindy Koehler. Cindy is a transformational business and life coach based in South Australia who's invested, I don't like to say spent, she has invested over 40 years helping people understand themselves more deeply, creating meaningful change in their lives. That you all know this is transformation. And so she is a master at it. She guides clients to navigate transitions, overcome stagnation, and embrace their unique strengths and live an aligned life. Hello, mate. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Debra. I'm not going to try and put on a US accent for you. I'm not going to offend you in that space. Thank you so much for having me here. And it's lovely to be in an audience full of empowered women, women full of wisdom, which is we're just coming into our own space when we get to this age. Absolutely.
We are, and it's a rich space, and I am so enthralled that people like you have traversed and uncovered so many truths under rocks and so forth, and busted through barriers and limiting beliefs. You studied mindfulness, meditation, energetic medicine techniques. You started it, however, in education. So bring us as to how you kind of processed your life up until the time that now you're, very much deep in NLP practicing and hypnotherapy and everything else. But talk us through your transition.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much. I think my life has been one of complete reinvention. I actually studied biomechanics and exercise physiology, and I ended up in one of those jobs that I didn't love. And so I had a double degree in education. So I thought that I would go and, while I was finding my other job, I would, dabble in education. And I went to the worst school in our state and absolutely loved it. Absolutely adored working there. So I then spent 20 years in education in various different schools and in leadership positions. And one day I decided to reinvent myself because the position had become made redundant by a school after I'd applied for it 3 weeks earlier. And I started studying naturopathy, and I started studying remedial therapies. And so I went in over a weekend and thought, well, I'm going to be the one that takes control of my life. So I went into that, and I set up a little one-person business, started lecturing around Australia in that area, and brought that out to 5 different sites with 15 odd therapists. Sold that business in 2020, and am now in the space of where I am developing the coaching area, because it is the culmination of that 25 years in business, 20 years in education, 40 years working with the mind and mindfulness. So I find myself in this space now. It's funny how you end up in the place that you are, never expecting to be here.
Interesting. Well, for our listeners, Cindy just drops in. Well, I sold that business. It was one of the biggest, largest exits in South Australia. All right. So it was pretty bold, pretty amazing, pretty storied. So you have studied all of a host of the disciplines in terms of how our mind is so critical and how our beliefs and the stories we've told ourselves. Maybe you had some stories that you had gotten through socialization or your family or whomever that you were able to bust through as you continued to progress in your education.
Yeah, I think so. I think, when it became through my learning as an adult, I became aware that we don't get a choice about the beliefs in which we come into our adult world with. We very much are this definition of ourselves based on the influences, the well-meaning and the kind and loving influences, for me anyway. I know we all have different backgrounds, And, my respect to those people that have a more traumatic upbringing and they have their challenges. I think life is challenging for all of us, but I had a beautiful family that I grew up with. But we inherit those beliefs when we bring them with us, and that image of ourselves is very much shaped by those people. And it's not until we sort of get through an adult life and go, well, is that belief about myself healthy or helpful? Or is it actually a bit of a handbrake on my life? And I think it's at that point you kind of ask the question and go, well, what do I want to do with that? And in my own life, my own story is of I'm a people pleaser. Doing service to others makes me feel worthy. And so a life of sort of self-sacrifice was laid out in front of me, and that played out in my relationships and in my work and in burnout, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's just shining a light on those areas and going, well, is that actually true? You
Well,
know,
this is it.
you know,
Yeah.
that's the question: is do we have the evidence about its truth?
Yeah.
Um, and or is it just an opinion? Is it just a story from the past?
Mhm.
And now, what do I want to take with me? What do I want to do moving forward? How do I want to expand into this next version of myself? Do I want to bring that with me, or do I want to leave that behind and move forward?
Right. Right. And
Mm.
you have brought so many of those disciplines with which you invested hours and hours and days and months of your life studying and immersing yourself in uh, curiosity, I think, assuaging curiosity, right? You have founded something called the Mind Garage. I want you to talk about that because you got interested in how so many capable people like can look so successful on the outside and yet disconnected underneath it all. So talk to us about the emergence of Mind Garage.
Mind Garage was something I started. People started approaching me when I was in business to get some mentoring and some coaching. And being an educator at heart, empowering others with education is something that is, at the deep seated, one of my deepest values is in growth. So when I started Mind Garage, I was fascinated by the mindset and how our mind works, and getting to know that we do have a negative bias,
Yes.
and I think that we do in the elite professionals that I've worked with in the past over the last 15 years, delivered about 10,000 hours of coaching to elite professionals and business owners, professional athletes, professional musicians. I find that these incredibly capable and magnificent human beings who are experts in their fields tend to have this internal dialogue that tells them that they are other than that. So, the stories of not being good enough and not being worthy and, doing the comparison mindsets and the self judgment mindsets, the mind reading in stories. Those were the things were holding the business back. The mindset of the business owner is by far the largest handbrake on any business growth. You find that the business owner inhibits growth, stops growth through control thinking, trying to do everything themselves, or they don't make decisions. They don't hire, they don't fire, they don't have the people in the right places. Yeah. So I found that to assist them with the mindset piece first, and then to bring in the business growth strategy, and then to re-identify themselves as a different business owner, enable them to reach up and spiral up into the next ceiling. And then, when we hit that ceiling, we dealt with that level of that level of mindset and what stories were coming out then. And then it enabled the business to grow at a much faster rate.
All right. Oh, for sure. I love your I listened to hours of your clips and shorts, and the handbrake is so telling. It's so visceral because I talk about people making missteps financially, right? Because people say I made a big mistake. Well, wait, that's metal, and we look at it and it rusts. And a misstep because we're still moving. Okay, you took an off ramp
Mhm.
and take an on-ramp. And to think that we have a handbrake holding ourselves back, and we have the choice to say, "Oh, let's come in." And so what you're doing is talking about identity-based resilience coaching, focusing on who we're becoming rather than what we're doing. So what should I do instead of what should I do? Who am I becoming? Massive difference.
Mm.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it is. It's kind of, who is the person I need to be if we fast track, into 3 years forward in our life and we were to envisage ourselves as, the successful, powerful, the magnificence that we truly are. If we were to sit in that space, it might be a good space for your listeners to go through the practice of really, really leaning into how it would feel to be completely empowered and in control of your life, to be completely free, to let go of the things that no longer helped us. What would be perhaps just 3 words that we could bring back to describe that woman that we were? We could bring back that she was confident. We could bring back that she was calm. We could bring back that she was total class. We could bring back that she was empowered. We could bring back that she was financially savvy. We could bring back that she was joyful and fulfilled. And then if we live in those words and say, I let no one or no thing move me away from that on a daily basis, then that then moves us into the future state that we're looking to become. But it brings it back into the immediate and go, well, why don't I just not wait until that comes in the future? Why don't I step into that right now? Why don't I, with love and kindness, let go all of those old stories and say, that is just what they are. They are internal stories. What about it? If I start embedding in myself the internal dialogue that is going to bring me everything that I want, going to bring me love and kindness, joy, on a day by day basis and a moment by moment basis, then we can embrace that daily with our thoughts, with our language, how we speak. And our words are a reflection of our internal beliefs. And then with the emotional state of those words, and then we step into the world that is alive and aligned, and truly joyful, truly joyful.
Let me introduce you to Debra Morrison. If you're a woman who thinks her best years are behind her, we're here to tell you your best chapter is just beginning. Join the We Can Do It Women Facebook group. It's more than a community, it's a revolution. Reclaim your dreams, master your finances, and unleash your potential. We're just getting started. Join now and let's make the rest of our lives the best of our lives. We can do it, women. Join us today.
It has to be riveting to coach with a high level executive or anyone and see that transformation, right? See that almost the light bulb, and then it's like there's like what was the problem we were dealing with before? What was the limiting belief? Like no, I'm already to third base. That's amazing. You talk a lot about uncomfortable. Our brain, we don't like uncertainty. The markets don't like uncertainty. Our brain doesn't like uncertainty. We typically don't like to have a lot of uncertainty, and the uncomfortable. Peeling away uncomfortable from unsafe, I think, is such a good distinction. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, the mind's only job is to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So if we think about that, everything that its response, its immediate reaction is going to be, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's why we have the negative bias. The prehistoric brain that, you run away from the dinosaur, you don't get eaten. It's worked well up until now.
Yes.
So I think there's a key piece in recognizing that that's what the brain will always go to.
Yes.
And I think when we live in that space, we do keep ourselves on the edge of threat-based thinking.
Yeah.
And then I think it's really worthwhile when we are met with challenges in our lives or we are let with circumstances to ask ourselves, is this actually a true threat? Or is it just a story? Or is it, an overreaction for what could be quite, a small challenge? We can redirect and say with our thinking, I could go down the path of saying that is worthwhile of an enormous emotional response. Or I could choose option B, which could be, okay, I see it for what it is, and I'm going to choose to walk down this path with kindness and with love. Or I could choose option C. If we use the mind's key skill, we are the only being on the planet that has metacognition. which is the mind's ability to look at itself. I can recognize in myself that, wow, I'm really angry at the moment. Or, wow, that really frustrated me. That's interesting, isn't it? And if we bring curiosity with that and say, oh, that person really annoyed me. What is it about that? What is that mirroring in me that I need to learn and that I can pick up and I can move forward with and say, well, that's probably the control freak in me that loves everything in order, because I like to keep myself safe and bring certainty because of what happened in my childhood. Okay. So I think it's really key that we just understand how our mind works and that we do have choice within that. And so in that way, we can bring around certainty in what looks like an uncertain and an unsafe situation, just depending on how we respond rather than react. So using cognition is a key thing.
Right now, that different lens, I'm a kind of a budding photographer, and put a zoom lens on your camera and it's a whole different vista.
Oh, yeah.
And then I just was fingering some macro lenses I had. I mean, I'm still back on the SLR. It is so critical. And NLP talks to us about not smushing emotions and intellect together. You deal with both of them, but kind of not together. So emote, and then like almost turn in your chair and say, okay, now, is that story real? And I think to the extent we can get real, see, I value time so much as you do. You pack so much into it already that it's so incumbent upon us to pick up these lessons that other people are putting down, right? And you put down quite a few lessons, and I've picked up a number of them, and I'll continue to. But how do women begin trusting themselves again after years of being a people pleaser, meeting everyone else's expectations?
Well, that is a big question. How do women begin to trust themselves? I think it is having a look at what area of their life they actually want to move forward in, and maybe that's in relationships, or maybe that's in communicating differently with people. And if we're to, I think, spend time with ourselves in quietness and actually step back and say, what are my values? What's important to me? What do I value? How do I move in this world? What are the activities that Cindy likes doing?
Yes.
In that space, and trying to work with getting to know ourselves a little bit better on a more of a personal level. And then we can start to bring ourselves out into the world in terms of building trust in ourselves by knowing ourselves a little bit better. So if I spend time and go, well, wow, what is important to me? Like for me personally, my personal values, one of them is love.
For sure.
Love and doing no harm to other people. And that reflects back on me in terms of doing no harm to self. Growth would be another thing for me that is incredibly important in my own self, but also in supporting others to do that. And by getting to know myself a little bit better and how I operate in the world, it helps me come from a foundation that I can move out and amongst people with greater confidence and trusting in what I say and what I do and what I think. And I think that for me is the best part. And the second part to all of that is by going to take some small action and then gaining some positive evidence in the future in advance in terms of being able to say, well, this is what I want to do next. For example, from a financial perspective, let's say you create a little app and you start to track your finances and your spending. And then you start to, maybe check that once a week to say, am I spending my money where I want to spend my money? This has got to go to the living stuff. Like, let's just accept that. But in my discretionary spending, do I want to be spending that on lifestyle? Do I want to be spending that on healthcare? Do I want to be spending that there? And then you're gaining some trust. And in the spending part, if there's a big spend, instead of going and grabbing it straight away, you might go, hang on a tick, let me just put some time. let me just step back instead of reactionary spending. I step back and ask myself, well, I'm going to sit with this for 24 hours. If it's a big spend, I might be with it for a week. And trusting myself and going, do I really need, want? Is that going to bring me what I'm really looking for? Or am I just meeting a need, a dopamine or hormonal need in the spending? Do I really need that $15,000 handbag? Some people would say yes. Some people would say, well, perhaps, we'd redirect it in a different direction. So taking those little actions, creating habits that build trust in self, getting to know yourself is a really key part of this is Cindy, this is who I am, and this is who I operate in the world. And these are the actions and the habits that I take that reflect that. I think that's probably the best way I can answer that question.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. What does empty the drawer first mean to you?
I think it's a Russian proverb that is, in order to clean a drawer, you need to first empty it out. And I think that, if you want to create change, you probably need to step back and say, well, where am I now?
Right.
Where do I sit now? What am I thinking? What am I believing? What is my physical environment now?
Right.
And sort of having a look at things like that means that you throw all the cards out on the desk, you empty everything out of the drawer, and you go, all right, what am I going to put back in the drawer?
That's it.
This relationship, this friendship that I keep going to, and they every time we go and have coffee together, it's all about them. There's never a question about me. You know what? I might not, with all the love and kindness to that person, they're a beautiful human being, I might not put that back in the drawer. I might clean out that name from the address book with love and kindness, but it's not meeting my needs. And that drinking too much at night, I might not put that one back in the drawer.
Yeah.
I might define myself as being a non-drinker, and that, that job that no longer is filling my cup.
Yeah.
I might have some serious thoughts about whether I bring that one back in or I bring it back in, but I do it differently. I go and have a chat to the people that are in charge and say, I'm going to do this from now on. Where does that fit? Yeah, that's what emptying the drawer means. Empty it out and then decide what you want to put back in that is going to give you the life that you so richly deserve.
Well, it's that intentionality that is at the core of so much of what I'm reading about your work and your identity. And I respect it so very, very much. How can our people get in touch with you?
I'm Cindy at mindgarage.com.au. Mindgarage.com.au is out there. There's various social things. I'm sure they're all in the show notes that you'll read below. Please feel free to reach out. If you've got a question or something's come up for your listeners, I'm happy to spend some time sending back an email or jumping on a quick Zoom call just to say, yeah, just talk it through with me. Absolutely.
Thank you. And your upcoming book, Manifest You, when is that out?
It should be out in July. Manifest You will take people through a change process, looking at yourself, defining where you're at now, where you want to go in the future, and how to get there. So it's very much a hands-on approach. I'm very excited about that. I never thought I'd say I was an author, but here we are.
And I am so looking forward to, I'm sure it'll be packed to overflowing with practical and grounded advice and tips and tools. Is there one thing you'd like to leave our audience with that is maybe we haven't touched on yet?
I turned 60 last year, and I have never been more excited for my life and where my business is going. I think this era that I'm in, I'm seeing so many incredible women doing amazing things. And I think the best is yet to come. That's how I see my life. And I look forward to seeing and listening to the people in your audience and yourself, Debra, seeing what we create next.
It's going to be powerful. It is powerful, and it's going to compound. Every pun intended. Cindy, it's been my pleasure and ours as a collective to get inside of your wisdom, your observation, your pattern recognition, all of the wealth that you bring to this life. And we are grateful beyond words. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you.
Absolute pleasure.
And thank you, our viewers, for joining us. Remember, I see you. I value you. And your greatest chapter is just beginning. And if today's episode sparks something special in you, I invite you to check out our We Can Do It Women Facebook group for the camaraderie of like-minded women stepping into their next calling, and tap into Cindy's brilliance. It is really profound. And I've just scratched the surface of tapping into it, and we'll have her back for sure. I invite you to be courageous, be curious, and bring forth, fan those embers of whatever might be burning there that has not been uncovered yet, and look down and say, that's what I want to put my mind and intention towards next, and then do it. Pay attention to your money. It will surely pay you back. Thank you.